Okay, so thank you, Tati, for being here with us and being our moderator. Thank you to everyone who is listening and to our presentation. So my name is Katia, and today we are going to, with Paulina, we are going to talk about engaging students in easy and fun and fast strategies. This has been tested by us, has been proven, and we are going to give you some tips, and we are going to give you examples of how these amazing tools and strategies have worked for us during this pandemic. So, as you may know, COVID-19 struck us in March, and all teachers, we suffered, and we were stuck at home and said, what can we do now? We are at home and our students are at their houses, but we have to still teach. So all of these tools appeared, all of these ideas come up, and we have to be creative, start immediately. And with Paulina, now I'm going to introduce ourselves properly. So my name is Katia Macias. I'm with Paulina Sandoval, my colleague. We are English teachers, and the both of us started with other teachers a collaborative group where we share in workshops, free workshops with other teachers, some ideas, some tools, and some strategies that have worked for us during this period of the pandemic. And now, in this session, we want to share with you what has been effective for us. So, bear in mind that we are not experts. We are just teachers who want to share them. And we really hope that this can be fruitful for you, and you can gather all the tips and you can learn from our experience as well. So now I'm going to leave you with Paulina, that she's going to talk to you about our presentation, how it's going to flow.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me well because connection sometimes is difficult, but we are going to do this slowly. Please ask all the questions that you have for us. We're going to answer them at the end, or if there is something very important or specific, we can interact a little bit in this conversation. As Katia mentioned, we are in service teachers. We are not here to present some theory. We are just here to present a bunch of strategies of specific tools that we have been proven that have been successful with our students and for ourselves as teachers to make our lives as teachers easier, specifically now with this situation of the online teaching and learning process, which I assume is brand new for all of us. For at least for Katia and I, it was like that. It was March, and then, oh, wow, you have to learn how to do online classes. So we obviously researched a lot, and then we shared, as she said. And for today, we have these three specific content. The first one is to make a differentiation between two concepts. One is ICTs that you probably know, and the other is LKT that is a little bit more modern, and we are going to talk about very briefly about those two, we may say, topics. Okay, then we are going to cover some aspect about engagement and motivation, how can we increase those two key aspects, right, of the learning process. And obviously, we are going to provide the specific tools. Then we have assessment and feedback. Very crucial nowadays, right? Maybe you are getting just started with online classes, or maybe you are in the middle of the course or of the year, and you are going to get to this point in which you need to assess the work that your students have been doing. So we are going to also share some ideas and some applications or some apps or some tools that can make your work more enjoyable and more, as the title said, do this fun and do it fast because time is a thing for teachers. We know that. We are aware of that. Okay. So our goals today are two. On one hand, we want to share, as we said, experiences, strategies, tips, and specific tools, technological tools available in internet. But also, we want to point out some very specific and short and easy to remember aspects, theoretical framework, because we are also very aware that this is not just a bunch of technological tools. There are some things that we need to consider as teachers. So let's get started with our first part, ICTs versus LKT. Well, as Katia mentioned, we were in March 18th. I will never forget that date. And my boss told me, like, okay, so this is the last day you are coming to schools. From tomorrow on, we are going to switch to a Moodle platform and you have to prepare your online sessions. And we were like, what? What are we going to do now? It's like, where to begin? Okay, so I remember that at the university, I read a lot about ICTs. ICTs, we know that is information and communication technologies, and we know that there are so many wonderful tools available for us. But currently, if you do a little bit of research on the internet, you are going to find that there is much more than just simple uh, tools, not just sites by themselves. We need to give a pedagogical purpose. That means, as teachers, we need to choose these tools in order to approach our students or to prepare our students for the future, right? Using these technologies for their own knowledge and also to be more prepared for what is coming, right? Not only for one specific purpose, but for the learning, the integral learning of the process. Here we have the learning and knowledge technology. Basically, it means here you have also a site, www.sciencepedia.com. So we read something from that site and also some other papers that you can find easily on the internet nowadays. And we think that it's not just technology by itself. If you just think about technology or tools, you are not just you are not being um, pedagogical. You have to mix up these two concepts, but to use this to motivate your students, but also to make them aware why are they using these tools? Why? Because they can facilitate somehow their lives and obviously making the learning more engaging and more effective, more meaningful. That's in very brief, in a very, I don't know, very briefly, what we can make the differentiation. So the approach we are obviously taking today is LKT. So learning and knowledge technologies. So all the tools, all the ideas that we are going to share with you are based on this approach or this, we may say, this theoretical framework, not just ICTs, because we truly believe that that is not enough as teachers. Okay? So, Katia, in regards to learning knowledge, let's get started. I think I have to continue, right? Engagement and motivation. These two are probably the most difficult or the most challenging, right? Areas or aspect to cover in our classes, not only right now. If you think about last year or the previous year and so on, we always need to be checking new strategies to how can engage this to this topic, how can I motivate my students in this class because the topic maybe is a little bit boring, or I don't know, checking, updating ourselves. So how can we motivate our students to participate in an online lesson? How can we call up their attention from minute zero in our lesson? So I would like, Katia, because I know that you are in the chat right now, saying hello to all our attendees. Thank you very much for being here, listening to our presentation. Um, So, what do you think we need to cover? Do you think there is one specific aspect? For example, me, in my personal experience, I think that for engagement and motivation, I can use music, let's say. That's a good idea, right? So, what things have you been proven? How do you motivate your students in your day-to-day life as a teacher? If you could share something in the chat, it could be amazing. If not, don't worry, because we are going to continue. And as we told you at the very beginning, we are going to share with you a bunch of uh, technological tools, very easy to use, both for teachers and students, in order to increase the engagement and also the motivation. Okay, so let's continue, Katia, with the next slide, please. Thank you very much. So here we have some ideas that you must or you should consider before using Kahoot. Someone is saying using Kahoot. Oh, Cynthia, we love Kahoot. And actually, well, Katia will be mentioning Kahoot a little bit later. And yes, totally, it's very interactive. I use Class Dojo to motivate my students. Class Dojo is very cool, it's very attractive, especially for a young learner. Great, thank you. Well, now with the presentation, we have some ideas before showing up or sharing the tools that we would like to mention. When we are choosing a tool or when we are selecting a specific site on the internet, a game, for example, or as Cynthia and Carolina were mentioning, Kahoot, why I'm going to choose Kahoot, why I have to look for another material or a different way to present my material. Well, there are reasons for this. The first one is rapport. Rapport is obviously the close relationship, the relation that you develop with your students. Online, it's obviously different than a face-to-face relationship. You cannot be like hugging or checking eye contact and so on. But you can also, for example, be sending messages, short messages by Classroom, for example, or any other platform that you use in your school for checking up how your students are, how are they feeling at some point, because we are human beings. We must not forget that, first of all. And also because relationships are everything. They are crucial for an effective online learning process because the students need to feel that connection. I have placed some GIFs more than pictures because there is a famous saying that says like a picture is has more value than 1,000 words. But for me, that is GIFs, GIFs, because they have movement, so students can actually look at the short kind of video, we may say, okay, this graphic format. And for example, here, I'm not sure if you can read, but it says sending a virtual hug, and it's loading. And that is beautiful for students if they get used to virtual hugs, virtual messages, emojis, and all those kind of um samples of your that you are carrying, that you are sharing love with them. They will develop a closeness to you, and obviously, or therefore, your class, which is our main objective. Then we have flexibility and relevance. Well, flexibility is obvious due to the context we are living in. We cannot pretend that everything is going to work perfect. That works both ways for us and also for students. We need to be empathetic, or we need to develop empathy with them, right? And in terms of flexibility, maybe some options or your plan won't work the first time. So you need to be flexible with yourself and also listen to your students and make content relevant for them, or make the activities more relevant according to their age, according to their interest, and so on. And the next concept is autonomy. Autonomy is related to the what was I saying? It's not the same to be teaching students that are from kindergarten. For example, Katia, you are with PK, and also with kindergarten and 5, 6, 7 years older. And in my case, I have older students, and obviously the levels of autonomy vary, but you can challenge your students little by little and teach them how to, for example, use a platform, how to, for example, share the screen by Zoom or by Meet, or you can also provide activities that develop autonomy in the long term. Maybe this is not going to happen from one day to another, but don't give up. You can do it. Interaction is related to rapport, but interaction in purple color here is, it's not only related to the relationship of the communication that is teacher students. You have to provide opportunities for students group teamwork to happen. That is magical. You can, if you are lucky enough, you are going to have a synchronous lessons or classes. And if you are in a platform like Zoom, for example, you can make up breakout rooms that is work in different teams, and they get to know each other and they develop a relationship, a closeness that students, some students or all students, will feel part of the team, part of the class, part of something that is going on, and that therefore is going to mean more motivation and more participation in your classes. Good afternoon, everyone that is getting to see, observe, listen our presentation. We're just getting started. Well, we're almost at the end. Diversity. I place diversity here in order to think that not all the students, this is the same that in a typical classroom, face-to-face classroom. In a virtual classroom, you also have to cover diversity. You have different ages, you have different interests, and in that case, what can we do? Maybe we can prepare activities that cover different kind of multiple intelligences, maybe something more kinesthetic one day, and then the next activity can be more related to listening and then react in a physical way, like a total physical response, for example. You can also make your students to draw or listen and draw instead only of covering writing aspect, because we need to cover different um, not just intelligences. I don't really appreciate that word, but different interests or different uh, neurodiversity styles of learning. That is the correct word. Finally, last but not least, because for me this is my topic, but we have little time, so I cannot cover all what I want. But at the end, I'm going to give you a surprise. Intrinsic motivation. All students, all people have the motivation that comes from rewards, right? Like grades from the outside of the congrats from the parents or the teachers. But there is something crucial that is the intrinsic motivation. People, we need to feel that we are going to do something because it's good for us. That, for example, the learning English is important for me because I'm going to do something in the future, or can be good for learning about other cultures. So many reasons for this intrinsic motivation that you as teacher can develop. But being more specific, fun is related to fun. Gamify your classes, gamify your lessons, gamify your tests, gamify your activities. Everything you do in your virtual classroom in a very I don't know, in 2 or 3 steps can be done in a fun way, uh, leaving aside the typical, for example, handout that is blunt, that is flat, that is tasteless, and is we have to say it's a little bit boring for students because now they are living in a digital world. So we have to check for example, pictures that are attractive to them, challenges. Let's, for example, prepare an activity that instead of just say, okay, let's answer this sheet in 10 minutes, let's make it more challenging, more fun. Let's put a timer with a very exciting music at the background, so they will feel motivated to answer quickly because that is exciting. That's the adrenaline of the game. Gamify your classes means to take some elements typically used or applied in video games, but in a learning context. I'm going to give you more detail about this at the end because we have a surprise for you. So stay. And well, now, as we told you at the very beginning, we are going to share some ideas like this, very fun, very briefly. But the most important, please, Katia, next slide. Recommendation: some sites or some apps that you can try right away in your English lessons virtually. There are many more. Probably you know some of this, but we are going to share also some strategies and also some specific examples, okay? So the first one in red color is a Flippity. Flippity.net is a free, that is very important, free site in which you can, using templates, ready to use, they're ready to use, you can convert a Google spreadsheet or a Excel into an interactive material. For example, if you have the list of your 30 students, you copy and paste this into one of the templates and you can have a wheel of random picker name. Or, for example, if you have 20 words of English vocabulary that you want your students to review, you copy and paste this into a template and you can have flashcards. And I like Flippity very much because it's one is free, and the other is because all the things you do, all the activities, all the material is saved in your cloud, in your Google Drive or whatever saving space you have connected to your computer, right? And you can modify all these activities all over again. You share the link obviously with your students, but you have interactive material in 10 minutes. So it's incredible. The next one, you probably know this or you have seen them or in Instagram or Facebook because they're super popular nowadays. Virtual classroom. Bitmoji. You probably have heard Bitmoji virtual classroom. I have a personal opinions. I don't really like Bitmoji. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know everybody loves Bitmoji, but in my case, I have another place where I made my own avatar. Remember that an avatar is like a picture of yourself. It's like a cartoon of your face, of your body, and you can make this very fun with movement, like a GIF that I told you before. So in this virtual classroom, you can share material, virtual, digital material for your students. You can prepare is a simple PowerPoint presentation, but you include or you connect. For example, if you found a video on YouTube, you copy like the URL, and you just then you just put it on the presentation, and then you share the presentation like a classroom. So they will see this. I hope you can see the picture. That's me with the blue sweater. Um, well, now I'm using glasses. Typically, I use glasses. And I have my cat, my dog, and students ask you questions, and they feel like they feel close to you. So they are asking you question. Miss, why do you have, for example, I don't know, a Captain America shield? Oh, because I like superheroes, for example, and I ask them questions in English. And what about you? What's your favorite superhero? So you are having interaction in your classroom just based in a picture or in an interactive virtual classroom. Another way to use virtual classroom is that you can share this ready to use with the links, the hyper, how do you say, Katia?
Hyperlinks.
I forgot, I'm so sorry. Hyperlink, thank you very much. You can share hyperlinks to different materials. Reading, for example. Imagine, imagine that you go to a site that is for reading digital books, ebooks that are wonderful sometimes. Oh, I would like to share this site with my students. So you can prepare a whole library like different stories, different levels, for example, and they just click one of the books in your virtual classroom, and they will has Katia, thank you very much. They click this hyperlink and they will have like 10 books to read or different videos to watch or games and so on, and add your own element. I was reading here on the chat that not everyone loves Bitmoji. Thank you. I love Emaze. Emaze. I don't know that one. Thank you, Miguel. Emaze. I'm going to write it down. Makatia, you know Emaze?
It's for presentation. I use it for presentations. It's like a PowerPoint, but more advanced, you know. I use it for presentations, but you can create it. It's like Prezi, but I will show it to you later.
I'm going to recommend right now on the chat a site which is very awesome for creating your avatars. Actually, mine, I did it on that site. It's called Pixton. In that site, you can also make your students to prepare their own avatars. And the best, you can, I forgot the word, you can create comics. So if you are working, for example, with teenagers or fifth graders, sixth graders, you can make them to create their avatars and create wonderful comics and, well, imagination, let it flow. Well, let's continue because time, goes by, flies. Flipgrid. You probably heard about Flipgrid because I know you are excellent English teachers because you are here. Flipgrid, there is a whole fever about Flipgrid. I tried Flipgrid like in March. I tried error and I mean trial and error, because that is what we did with Katia, right? At the very beginning in March, we were trying sites, and Flipgrid is one of my favorites. You can share videos. It's a platform, and you can record yourself giving instructions or reading a story or asking questions to your students for them to reply. So they press that green button and they record themselves. They take selfies, they use emojis and a lot of other cool stuff. And this is super important for social learning. We were talking about participation and motivation. This site includes somehow the two aspects because the students love cell phones. So this is a very practical way to use cell phones, okay? Last but not least, Padlet. You probably have heard about Padlet, but there are many, many other sites that are free. And these are virtual bulletin boards. Virtual bulletin boards are the typical, well, in Chile, we call them murales. So in these bulletin boards or murals, we collaboratively share different opinions, pictures, hyperlinks. We can share videos, anything related to a specific topic. So maybe you can post a question about something, and then you can see, especially when you have those kind of students that they are shy or they don't really want to speak up during the online lesson. So maybe they want to write or they want to share in an interactive way, not directly, but also provides more opportunities, super inclusive, and well, it's another way to do it. Padlet is super cool, super easy to use, but there are many, many others. So, Katia, that's up to me. I don't know if we check questions at the end, I think, right?
So we
So,
have 15 minutes to finish.
go.
So I'll go just quickly because of the time. So now, I thank you, Paulina, for that. I am going to talk just a little bit about assessment and feedback and how with Paulina, of course, and how we have assessed our students, especially now in our virtual reality. So how we passed from grades to value, because here in Chile, everything is grades, grades, grades. So now we have just to assess our students formatively. So just a quick look, just for you to bear in mind some of these aspects when choosing your assessment tool and when thinking about assessing your students. So bear in mind that this is a process, you know. You have to gather all the evidence you need for your students to achieve their goals, you know. The evidence will allow you to say, okay, am I doing okay? They are doing okay. Or maybe I didn't teach this right, let's go back. So gather all the all the evidence you need so as to check if you move forward or if you go back. Bear in mind that all the assessing tools that you are going to use promote participation in your students and that are motivating for them. So we are going to present some tools after that have these two concepts, participation and motivation. And what has worked for me is to assess my students in a meaningful way. If I only make them answer quizzes or true or false or circle the correct answer, they are just answering a quiz or a test. And I don't want that. I want them to learn, and I want them to have something meaningful for their lives. So instead of doing that, be creative. It's time for you to innovate, especially now, and make them record videos, make them create posters, make them create or record themselves doing a recipe. Trust me, guys, this time as teachers, we have to be creative and innovate because it's trial and error. And trust me, we have learned from error. And as Paulina said, bring fun to it. It is demonstrated that students learn when they are having fun. And most importantly, feedback is everything. If you don't provide feedback to your students, all the assessment process will be nothing. It will be worthless because they need to know how they are doing, if what went wrong, what is going okay. So bear in mind that feedback is important, and later we are going to give you some tips on how to give effective feedback. So given that, we just chose 3 tools because there are so many, but I chose my top 3 favorites. First of all is Kahoot. Kahoot, some girl mentioned it on the chat. I believe that Kahoot is my favorite and also my students' favorite. They love it, they ask for it, and they learn and enjoy doing it. So what is Kahoot? Kahoot is a learning app that it is free also. Of course, if you want to get upgrades, you have to pay. But Kahoot is free now, premium for teachers. So if you go to YouTube and type Kahoot Premium, Kahoot for Teachers, it will give you the link to subscribe to Kahoot Premium for free. So in this app, you can create trivias and quizzes, but in a fun and gamified way. For example, you can play it live with your students, or you can send them challenges, and they have a limit of period of time to answer the questions, and then you will get a report, and you will get what was the most difficult question, or who are the students that need more help. So in that way, Kahoot is a really an amazing tool for you. And what do? For example, I assess my students at the end of the class, and I send them the link. They do it during the week. And when the time finishes and we go to the next class, we start the class with the Kahoot that they did to analyze and to give feedback. So in that way, feedback is given to them. Another one is Mentimeter. Mentimeter is also free, but of course, if you want upgrades, you have to pay because it only gives you 2 types of questions. Mentimeter, I use it as an exit ticket. I ask my students, what did you learn today? Or how did you find how did you find this topic? Or any kind of questions. And it is not only about yes, no, 1, 2, 3. You can ask them open-ended questions, word clouds, etc. It is amazing as an exit ticket, and it also gives you a report. Quizzes, yes, quizzes is like similar to Kahoot. It's really great. Yeah, quizzes. And finally, we have Canva. Canva was not made for teachers, was not made for education. Actually, Canva is a graphic design platform for people to create graphics, presentations, posters, documents, etc. But we teachers are so creative that we have found ways to assess our students in using Canva. For example, one activity that I did with my students, for example, they had to create an infography about a real issue or a problem around the world. So they talked about endangered species, what else, climate change, etc., etc., and they created in an infography. So in that way, I am promoting skills that they can use outside of the classroom, and they are learning in a fun way, and they are learning technological skills that nowadays our students are really going to use in the future, because the 21st century skills are demand, the technological use. So if you know more of these tools that you can leave it in the chat. So how to give effective feedback? We have 4 main tips. First, with Paulina, we have used video or audio to provide feedback. And what do we use? For example, Flipgrid, that she mentioned before, or we have Mode. Mode is an extension of Google Chrome that it will allow you to give feedback, but instead of written feedback, it will record a voice message. So why audio or video feedback? Because students nowadays, they don't see you much, and giving them a platform for them to watch you or listen to you, they will be more attached, and it will build a better rapport with them. And of course, try to focus on giving immediate feedback, and don't wait too long, because they will be, if you wait too long, and after 2 weeks or maybe more, they will be, what is she giving me back? What is this? I don't remember. So try to give immediate feedback. It can be written, but be careful with that, because sometimes it can be misunderstood. And Paulina also, she has some tips with us, because she works with little students, young learners, and she uses emojis. Right, Paulina?
Yeah, emojis, I think they have worked like wonderfully. For instance, Google Classroom, when you give instructions, you can make instruction more clear or clearer for students using these, sorry, emojis. You can also, as you said, give feedback using emojis, so make this more somehow to give the message in a specific way, a nicer way, because you see smiley faces, and that obviously somehow, especially teenagers that can be somehow sensitive, or little children. I work with young learners, and they really love when they send them like kisses or hugs and those kind of things. I think that's very nice from us. Joy Pixels is the add-on, the extension that I use, but there is also one side that is called keyboard emoji. So then you just copy and paste them everywhere. Okay. So the last two strategies, we may say, or considerations about effective feedback is be constructive. I with Katia, we were talking about feedback, and we have this sandwich technique, right? We first of all, for a sandwich, you have a piece of bread that is really soft, so you give something positive, right? And something nice. Then in the middle, you have like the hamburger or the meat or the vegetables. That is where you put all the ingredients that need to be improved. That means your criticism or your or anything that you want to point out to be improved for next time. And then you finish with another piece of bread. That means another positive comment. So that is a way, a very easy explain way of giving constructive feedback. finally, we must remember somehow that feedback is not only for our students. We as teachers have the need of listening of our students in order to receive feedback from them. That is an essential, because in that way you are going to know if your students are or not motivated with your class, if they are getting the idea or the point of the content, if they are actually understanding, or maybe you are being to maybe the level that you are actually choosing for the activity is too high, so they are lost. So feedback works both ways, from the teacher to students and from students to the teacher. So bear that in mind. It's really helpful. That's the truth. It's really helpful and gives you a lot of information. Now, before we go, because we told you at the very beginning, right, Katia, we have a surprise. Would you like to tell people? I'm going to share the screen in the meantime. Katia?
Sorry, Paulina is going to share something with you. So thank you very much for being here. Rachel posted our handout, which has 12 tools to try right away to increase motivation and participation. I posted the link in Genially because we use Genially to create our presentation. And if you click on the plus sign, you will go directly to the web page. So if you want to take a look at our 12 tools, you can go to the handout that is posted up. So, Paulina.
Exactly. So the surprise now is that you are going to have access for 1 month entirely to this whole encyclopedia of information here in this page that is called Padlet. On the Padlet, I'm going to share it again on the chat. If you click that, you are going to see a lot of information related to everything we talked about today. You are going to find out, for example, tutorials, how to use Flipgrid, about gamification, elements that you can use in your classroom very easily, how to create interactive material in different sites, etc., etc., etc. This is something we prepared with a lot of collaboration from our friends, because we are a group of teachers, Educación Colaborativa, from Punta Arenas, Chile. And we wanted to share with you all of this, how to create all this, how to use it effectively in your classroom. So we really hope you can comment at the end if you want to visit. For example, if you want to create your virtual classroom, you just click here and then you will have access to all the material. So as Katia already said, thank you very much for being here, for listening. And if you have questions, please let us know. If you have any other recommendation, because you actually shared a lot with us, that was great. And that's it.
Great. Thank you, Paulina and Katia. It was an amazing presentation. And I think that we really value all the material and tips that you gave us. We have some questions and we can start with Danny. Danny, sorry I muted you because there was some background music, but you can ask your question right now.
Hello, Danny. Great that you are here.
Well, I used to be a high school teaching adults now, and I just wanted to know how you can engage. I mean, you can interact with them and keep them interested on an out-of-class interaction. When a student comes to class, interested at that time, but then when he or she leaves and you give him or her an assignment, they don't seem to be very eager to do it. So we can help them become more interested in things that are not in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. You work with adults, right?
Mostly,
there was
yes.
a part that was missing. Adults.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Katia, would you like to go or me?
I can't listen to him. I don't know if
Okay,
why.
I heard that he somehow, yeah, you are right, Danny. We have been working with other teachers and adults they have characteristics that are different from teenagers, and in this case our experience is with young learners, right? But I would recommend you the Padlet I share with you. There is a specific part in which you can read some tips for effective online courses, not online classes, but online courses. Because as a teacher, when you work with adults, you need to give a specific course with the clear objectives at the very beginning, so they know what they are going to achieve at the end of your course. That is something very, very important for all lessons, I guess. But another way to make them to be more engaged is to take into consideration their opinion. So, for example, you can make a poll and ask them what they would like to talk about next class. So maybe they can give you, I don't know, I would like to talk about sports. I would like to talk about this. So maybe you can cover the grammar, but related to their interest, right? That is something that I also worked last year, not this year, fortunately, with adults, but in an online training, half of it, blended learning. I think um, that works very well because they feel part of the class and they feel like somehow, okay, I gave my opinion, the teacher considered it, so it's important, responsibility, and give choices. To be flexible is something that you need to keep in mind. That works for all of us, not just with adults. I don't know if that um, answers your question entirely, but maybe it can be a starting point. Great.
Great.
Thank you for your question.
We also have a question from Domingo. There you have it in the chat. Should the school use a single tool or should each teacher use his favorite?
That's a very good question. Katia,
Yeah.
did you hear it?
Yeah, I had him muted. I didn't know. Maybe. Okay. Thank you, Paulina, for answering Danny. In case of Domingo's question, for example, in my case, my school, we use the same LMS, which is Google Classroom. So all teachers, we use the same platform. We use, for example, Google tools, Google presentations, etc. But we are given the freedom to choose other tools that we apply. So in my case, for example, I use Kahoot to assess my students, for example, at the end of the class. And some teachers have asked me or have seen our workshops and says, oh, this is an amazing tool. I am going to start using it. But it depends on every teacher, but if what should the school do? I think in that way it's good, because if we overuse a tool, if all the teachers are using Kahoot and other classes every day, I think if you are overusing a tool, at the end of a period, it would be, I don't like it anymore, the kids, because it's everywhere, so it will lose the magic of that tool. So in that
It
case,
loses effect.
yeah, so I wouldn't recommend it to overuse a tool. That's why we provide different kinds of ones, so you can interact and make them, different kinds of ways to interact, motivate, and assess. I don't know if that answers your question, Domingo. And thank you for asking, sorry.
I wanted to add something if it's possible, because in my school it was different. Katia and I, we are friends, but we work in different schools. And it is important to have a single channel of communication.
Yeah.
That is super important, because you can use different tools as a teacher. That depends on your own style. And you can share strategies, right, Katia? For example, Katia is always sharing me, this site is super cool. Okay, I will try it according to my students. That may work or not, but the channel of communication, the school should provide that in a specific way to make our work as teachers easier. So yeah, that's it.
a way of to unify, like the work and have
Yeah.
that as a group. Yeah, that's interesting. Cool.
Hmm.
Great. So if there's any more questions, we have 10 more minutes. Uh, yay. Well, people are congratulating you and being grateful for the tools that you're sharing, which is awesome.
Yeah, and there are many, many more studies. So for anyone that just got into the session, I'm going to repost now in the chat the Padlet. Padlet is a super easy to use, very friendly for teachers and students site because it's like a bulletin board. So they can share pictures, they can share selfies, for example, for first day of school. They can share videos, they can share, well, just text, write anything about a topic. And what happens with Padlet, in this Padlet, you will find a lot of information about our presentation in detail, tutorials and so on.
Great.
Yeah. For example, regarding Martha's question, in my case, I was at Paulina. I met Paulina because she was my guide teacher in a school with teenagers, and I learned from her a lot of when special needs. So she taught me a lot about that, and actually, you have a lot of experience in differentiation, right, Paulina? In British
Yeah,
Council. So she's the one to answer that.
all about needs. Sorry, I didn't read the question because I was reading another one. What was the question?
Marta Marta Viera.
Ah, I saw it. With
Yeah.
what project or tools can we reach different needs? Yeah, well, special needs it's a thing. Actually, we in one of the workshops we presented, there was a specialist talking about this and how difficult I'm in Chile, at least, and imagine that in your countries have been the same. How difficult is nowadays to cover or to be there to support student in a more personal, individual, personalized way, because nowadays we are just getting familiar with virtual classes. So obviously this is more difficult. Now, there are many tools that you can use to provide extra support for those students. I'm going to mention two that we already said during the presentation. Katria, you mentioned one. For example, if you know that there are students who struggle with reading or writing, you can use videos instead of make them to write
Yeah.
because they are going to suffer a lot. So you can make use mode. It was one of them to record audios with your cell phone like this, or you can use Flipgrid. Flipgrid is super easy to use and super fun, and so they can record videos and they can develop other abilities. That's one. And on the other hand, if you are using, for example, quizzes, or you are using a Kahoot, or you are using any other platform in which you can have short quizzes, you can check out and differentiate also the how you say the percentage and check the difficult questions and leave them aside. For
Yeah.
example, when it's the same that we do at schools, but you can actually, well, that depends on the site, but you can actually make differentiation for the score for some students, because for some students they need extra bonus because they are super fast learners, and some others need like an extra support, an extra reward. Give medals, guys. Motivate your students to continue giving effort. So you can provide Flippity. I mentioned that site. In that site, you can create your own badges. So you can give badges. Maybe you are not okay. Maybe you are not doing well in your writing process, but you are being so creative that you got a medal for it. So that students' self-esteem, that students' confidence will increase one way or the other, and eventually that students will get to write fluently as we want, or speak, or any other. It was just an example, but those two things I think cover the question. I hope, Martha. Thank you for the very important, significant question for me.
Great.
Yeah.
There are more questions.
Yeah, I was reading Tirsa's question. And hello, my students are true beginners. They are 10, 13 years old mostly. Should I use apps in Spanish? What would I recommend you? There is one that is Quizlet, that it is to create flashcards or to learn vocabulary. So what can you do? For example, on one hand, you have cat, and on the other hand, you have gato. So at the beginning, you can just start with the translation if they are really, really beginners, and then you can move forward to cat and the picture of a cat, and just to eliminate, the gato. So little by little, I'm not a fan of translation, but if they are really, really beginners, you can just scaffold, start from 0, 1, 2, and then go and moving forward. So that app is Quizlet. You can try it on. It's there. It is also in the handout we posted. And that's it, Tirsa. I don't know if it's okay.
I think that before Tirsa, there was a question.
Yeah,
How do you deal with? Oh, that was the question.
Actually, Eddie has another one. Did you have problems when students are starting to use the apps? How did you solve it?
Good question.
Yeah, at the beginning it's difficult. Now, in my case, for example, and I'm going to answer Domingo as well. I mean, he didn't ask, but yeah, it's important to not overcharge our students with the tools and not too many tools. At the beginning, it is difficult because one, you are not with them in face to face; they are in their computer. But if you have patience, you can create tutorials as well. You can create tutorials and then support. Paulina has made tutorials for their students, and little by little, they are learning. So just patience. They will not, at the beginning, it will be difficult, but they are kids. So routines and try, they will get there. So yeah. Paulina, you?
Yeah, Katia, you are totally right. Something that has worked a lot are videos, short videos, tutorial.
Yeah.
But not only for students, also for parents, because sometimes parents don't even know how to send an email, how to upload the picture to Classroom, or how to use any other tool. So maybe you can approach parents first if they are very, very, very young, or you can just record videos, for example, for your students, or show them in a synchronous class. Okay, this side is for this. For example, with Flipgrid. Okay, this is Flipgrid. You press this button and check this out. Oh, so they will have the model to follow. But there will be a lot of questions, a lot of people not getting the point at the very beginning. Don't get frustrated easily, as Katia mentioned, patience and continue. Eventually, I have been from March. Now it's October, 5, 6 months. And I think that now is 100% covered. But at the very beginning, it was very difficult. And some schools that have vulnerable students, when they don't have access to internet or the tools, or when parents are not very ready to be supportive, that needs extra patience and extra collaboration. But you can do it, guys.
Yeah. I don't know if we have more time to.
I think that we can cover one more question.
Yeah, in case of, for example, Katya's, anxiety and stressed situations can happen to our students, but in that way, she's one of your 20 students, so maybe you can do a different type of assessment with her. So in that way, she get the same material, but using different tools. Because some of my students also get stressed with Kahoot, but I just send them, for example, Google Forms instead of that. I don't use Kahoot Live anymore because of the internet. I just send them the challenge. And Sonia, maybe Paulina can help with this. Which tool do you use to record videos with tutorials? In my case, I use Loom. I don't know, what about you?
I was just answering the same on the chat. The best for me, just because it's free and super easy to use, is a PowerSoft.s, a PowerSoft.s. The other one is Screencastify.
Yeah,
That is from Google.
Yeah, that's from
But
Google.
it's maximum 5 minutes. So
Yeah.
Loom is very cool, I think. I haven't tried, Katia.
It's
so
free
I don't
the
know,
first
but
month, but then you can change your email and you can give it a try. But
Also, I
yeah,
think that you have a maximum of videos that you can record. Like if you
yeah,
have 30 videos recorded, then there's the limit.
yeah. So
awesome.
thank you very much, everyone. I posted our channel. We have some tutorials there of Educación Colaborativa. They are in Spanish because we want to get to all teachers, not only the ones English teachers, but all of them. And also you can follow us in our social media, in Instagram mainly. We have Instagram, Educación Colaborativa, which is
And Facebook.
Coeducación. So yeah,
YouTube, Facebook, and the email is in the handout, Katia. So you can
Yeah.
email us if
Yeah.
you want, for example, to talk with us or ask a question or any other extra session about a topic.
Yeah, or
We are
even
willing
if you want to share with us a workshop, we can invite you to give a topic in our workshop. So that would be great to create this network of teachers, because teachers, we have to help each other, especially now in this time.
Mhm.
Yeah.